Welcome, everyone, to Marketing with a Book and Speech for Consultants. My name is Devin DeVries. I'm the VP of Indie Books International, and I'm here to present our speaker today, Henry DeVries, the CEO of Indie Books International. He works with consultants who want to attract more high-paying clients by marketing with a book and a speech. In fact, he's been involved as a writer, editor, or publisher of over 300 business books, including his McGraw-Hill bestseller, How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett. Please help me welcome Henry DeVries.
Thank you, Devin. The year was 2015, the place, Memphis, Tennessee. We're just about a mile from the Mississippi Bridge, and we're in an 800 square foot apartment. And that's where Penny Reed lives with her teenage daughter. And Penny is at her kitchen table, and she has a stack of unpaid bills. And she's sorting through the unpaid bills. She has no idea how she's going to pay these bills. Now, this 800 square foot apartment is a far cry from the 4,000 square foot home she used to live in with her ex-husband, who was also her employer, who also gave her all her client work. No client work, no employer, no 4,000 square foot home. Penny Reed is a special woman. I hope you get to meet her one day if you haven't met her yet. Penny Reed said to herself, well, if you're going to dream, dream big. In 2 years, I'm going to be making $200,000 as a paid speaker and a professional author. And that's when she met me. And I said, Penny, first tell me, what do you know how to do better than anybody? And she says, oh, I've got this. I know how to help a dentist grow their business. And let me tell you, Henry, dentists are screwed up people. They borrow all this money to go to college. They borrow more money to go to dental school. Then they get out and they borrow even more money to start a practice. And they think they own a business. The truth is, a business owns them. And they're the indentured servant to that business for the rest of their life until they can pay it off or get someone else to buy it and take it over. They don't have cash flow or time to enjoy life. I know how to fix that. Well, I said, bingo, Penny, we have a business model. So she says, okay, great. So we're going to come out with a book. Then I'm going to be a speaker. Then I'm going to get paid to speak. And then people are going to find me and hire me. And I said, oh, no, that's not the plan at all. And she said, well, certainly we're doing a book. I said, yeah, we're doing a book. She said, oh, well, do you have an idea what the sexy, provocative title of this book's going to be? And I said, oh, I've got this. Are you ready? She said, yeah. I said, be ready to write this down. She says, okay. Growing your dental business. It's what they want, and it's what you know how to do. She says, okay, so we write the book up first. And I go, no. First thing you do is you start making a phone call a day. She says, just one? I said, you can make more if you want, but at least one phone call a day. She said, who am I going to call? I said, I got this. People who book speakers to talk to dentists and dentists who might hire a consultant. She says, oh, I'm going to run out of people to call in a week. I said, no, you're not. There's 1 million of them out there, and they're multiplying like rabbits. And she says, well, I'm not a salesperson. I don't know what to say. I said, good. I don't have to untrain you. I just have to give you some magic phrases. Are you ready? She said, yeah. He said, you call them up and you say, if you'd be interested in a conversation about having me speak to your dentist on the topic of my new book, Growing Your Dental Business, that'd be appreciated. What if it's a dentist? I said, same thing. If you'd be open to having a conversation about me being a consultant around the subject of my new book, Growing Your Dental Business, that would be great. Well, Penny started making the phone calls every day. And sure enough, she started getting booked to speak, to teach, to consult. So this went on, and she has this goal of making $200,000 a year. We get the book done. She says, "Oh, so I don't have to make the phone calls anymore?" And I said, "Oh no, you got to do one more thing. You got to mail a copy of the book every day." She says, "To who?" I said, "People who would book speakers to talk to dentists, and dentists who might hire a consultant." And she started doing that. I'm going to fast forward. It's 2 years later. Penny reads at her computer. She hits the print button. She was looking at her QuickBooks profit and loss statement. Comes off of the printer. And under gross profit, it says $200,000. 100,000 from speaking, 100,000 from consulting. 2 years, from 0 to 200,000. That's what we're talking about today. I tell the Penny Reed story because it has it all. And I asked Penny Reed for permission to tell you that story, and she gave it with 2 caveats. Caveat number 1, she says, "Henry, don't make my ex-husband the villain of this story. He is not. We just didn't want to be married to each other." And 2, she said, "You need to tell him it went up to $280,000 a year with some momentum and some referrals." So that's what we're talking about today. What are the different ways to market with a book and a speech? Now, I find people come to an event like this for a reason. You've got a reason. There's something you want to find out. Devin and I can tailor what we cover in the 45 minutes we'll be with you to your interest. So I thought I would just go around and Carol, our LinkedIn expert. Carol, what were you hoping to get out of today? Oh, you're on mute.
I was just hoping to see you again and to hear you talk again, so I would be re-inspired again. And that's it.
Carol, can I tell you a re-inspire story?
Of course.
A man goes to a used car lot and he finds the used car salesman and he says, "Hi, do you remember me?" And the salesman says, "Well, you look familiar." He goes, "Well, about a month ago, you sold me a used car and you told me how great it was going to make me feel and how wonderful it was going to be to drive around town and how it would improve my self-esteem." The salesman said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Could you tell me all that again? Because some days driving that car, I get so discouraged." So I hope you'll be inspired today. Thanks for coming. Laura, good to see you again. I hope to see you live in Las Vegas in 2022. What were you hoping to get out of today? Maybe you could just quickly introduce yourself and
Hi, I'm Laura Pareca, Las Vegas, owner of 7dailyhabits.com. I have 2 books that I've written, 33 pages long, that embarrassingly, I just print them out and bring them when I speak. And so I haven't, I know, I mean, I've got your book, I read it. I know that there are things that I should be doing to create more. And now that the pandemic is kind of hopefully close to over, I just have to get re-energized. The biggest word for me is squirrel. And so I know that I have to do this. This is my next thing, and I need to do it.
Yeah, I've always thought energy was one of your best assets. But we've been through a lot. I mean, let's acknowledge. Oh, and by the way, you have antibodies and vaccine. You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
So we've been through a lot, and we're heading into this new world. What can we do? So we'll cover that. Great.
Okay.
Christina, welcome. What were you hoping to get out of today?
Good morning. I am curious. So I have my own consulting business, and primarily what I'm doing is facilitating group process.
Mhm.
This is focused around culture change, and in particular for organizations that are wanting to advance equity, right? And all the various categories of oppression, depending on which one they're focused on. So I have been invited and encouraged many times by colleagues and consultants to write a book. And whenever I stop to think about it, it's overwhelming because there's more material than I can imagine. So trying to narrow that down or focus it. And what happens when I'm working with live audiences is they direct where we go, right? So much like what you're doing right now, which is tailoring all that you have to offer in response to what you're hearing from us. And in a book, that doesn't happen, right? We don't have that live interaction where I can ask questions and then speak to or respond in a way that is relevant. And so like in interviews or things like that, that's easy, but writing a book is different. And I'm not sure if what you're offering here makes sense or not, because I don't generally just speak. It's a facilitated process. So I'm interacting a lot with audiences and creating experiences rather than just speaking, right? It's what brings it to life is that interaction.
Christina, would it be okay if I addressed a couple of those points? Because I think it would be of interest to everybody.
Mhm.
We do a weekly podcast on marketing with a book and a speech. And we just put one up yesterday. And it was help me out, Devin. It was it how to conduct a client strategic reset?
Yes.
Yes. And we'd started it out calling it a retreat, but the speaker who does a lot of this work, his new magic phrase is a reset. So you might be offering a cultural reset. And we were offering this because this is one of, when we say speaking, there are 16 different ways to speak as part of marketing with a book. And a strategic retreat or reset facilitation, an advisor-led area is a big one. And by the way, this is your hunting season. It's like when it's deer season in Utah. It is strategic reset, a strategic retreat season in America. And so prime for that. The other thing is, well, I'd like to offer you a one-on-one on how to write a book, no cost. We'll have a strategic session if you'd like. I have books and monographs on how to write a business book. I certainly acknowledge it is one-way communication. The objective of the book is to get you into two-way communications. The best way to market a consulting practice is not a book. A book is the #1 marketing tool. One of those 16 forms of speaking is the best marketing you can do, because then they get to experience Christina. So today, this is an example. Devin will talk more in detail about this example today that you can do and that we recommend you do, because people can experience you in a non-threatening, low-risk manner. If this was a hard-hitting sales presentation, you have all the power to just click off. You know, it's you've got the power, and that's important. You know that I have a process today. You know I have an agenda to cover, but you also are smart enough to pick up that I'm going to tailor it to what the audience wants, because we make our biggest impact by being there for the audience, giving them what they want, not what we think they need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you also know that we demonstrate everything we want people to do, that you want some interaction. This is not a 45-minute lecture you signed up for. By asking people for interaction early on, says they have permission to put things in the chat room, or if there was something going on that you'd say, oh, Henry, Devin, could I ask a follow-up question? Because you have what we used to call at the university, a teachable moment. We started talking about the thing you were interested in, and you want to be there to serve. Okay, so there's the delay. I'm going to cover the top 7 ways to use a book as a marketing tool. I'm going to talk about the top 7 ways that you use speaking to attract high-paying clients. And when I say high-paying clients, I mean it's over $1,000. Most of our authors, it's 5 figures and 6 figures. It's over 10, it's over 100,000 lifetime value of a client. So they make decisions about who to work with in different ways than you do if you're hiring somebody for a $500 pest control project or something of that nature. The psychology is different. So this is the psychology for the larger trust deal. You're a trusted advisor. Your initial offering might be low. I offer a $365 book kickoff class. It's very popular because I spend 3 hours with a handful of people, giving them feedback on their book. I give them a one-on-one session. That's a no-brainer type offer you want to have, that people can see what it's like to work with you and get feedback, and maybe that's all they need to move forward, or maybe for them it's a first step. Okay, but let's go through from 7 down to 1. I've studied this. It's part of a 10-year, $3 million research study on how independent consultants and professionals attract high-paying clients. So number 7 in our study was they put on paid seminars, paid workshops, where people will give money and time. I would say my 365 is in that category. So that's something I do in that nature. So we've worked with a number of people where they know people are trading time and money because you're offering them information on how they compare to their peers. That's what people are willing to pay money and time to get, because they can't go out and ask people that. I have a new book coming out, Rainmaker Confidential, where I went out and interviewed hundreds of people in the last year about what they were spending more money on, spending less money on, what's their go-to strategy, and then have put that in a book, and I'll be doing workshops on it where people can find out how they compare to their peers. What could you do in that area? Being the author of a book gives you credibility for the invite, because, as I mentioned, the Rainmaker Confidential book, that's a tool. The actual attending the event, I'll make some money from it, but it's not the primary reason I do it. Other aspects that I teach people to do 50-50 fundraising workshops, where I've approached organizations and said, can I do a fundraiser for you? And they go, a fundraiser, what's that? And I said, well, normally I charge $5,000 to $10,000. By the way, that's what an expert with a book charges. You're in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, handful of variables to determine what that is. But so I speak in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, but instead of paying a speaking fee, I would be willing to go in 50-50 with the organization. If you promote the event, we'll split the gate in half, and we might charge an early bird rate of $99. I did this for the nation's capital chapter, the Institute of Management Consultants. Got 35 people to attend. It was the most successful event they've ever put on, added money to their treasury. I got a couple of thousand of it, but more important, I picked up, I believe, 3 clients that day with an average spend in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. So a really good day for me. That's what you can do, number 7. Number 6, get your internet game plan together. So this principally means LinkedIn and YouTube. So I'm going to bring on Devin a little later to talk about LinkedIn. For YouTube, I would like to say you really need to up your YouTube game. We've been saying it for years. This year, we started doing the weekly podcast on video. We have a guest speaker. We have some of our authors in the studio audience on Zoom. We put it up on YouTube. We've done over 30 episodes so far this year. And then we also put it on Spotify and iTunes, just the audio. So really multiply your presence. Let people see you speaking. I also did a sizzle reel this year, under 2 minutes of me talking about speaking. There was a challenge. I got invited to speak to a group, and they wanted some video of me speaking in the last year. Well, I haven't spoken to a live group, I said, until we started in July. I've done virtual ones. So I talked to them and say, pandemic, let me just show you the year before the pandemic of live speeches that I've done. So the point there is YouTube. Be an author who does trailers for their books, does short vignettes. It's very short attention span theater on YouTube. Under 10-minute videos and under 2-minute videos are things you should be looking for. Okay, going down the list, 5, networking. And we used to think about networking as going to a target-rich environment, a meeting or a conference where our target audience hung out and we would network with them and get people on our email list and all that. The pandemic's been challenging with networking. It still exists. When we put on events for authors and speakers, we build in networking time. People need to talk to each other. They need to compare notes. They need to build context. You still need to do that. It's just a challenge when so much has shifted to virtual. Number 4 is for those target-rich groups, those associations, you should volunteer, because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And people who have a profile with their association, it's easy to get to know, like, and trust them. For several years, I helped the Institute of Management Consultants put on their annual conference. I also helped them take the conference and do it virtual and get speakers like Malcolm Gladwell to speak for them. Did that for years, and it generated work for me. This year, I'm helping out the Society for the Advancement of Consulting. I've put a panel together. One of the things I do, and we'll get to it in a minute, but I'm a weekly columnist for Forbes.com. I'm actually paid to write 5 columns a month for Forbes. I'm putting on a panel of how consultants can get publicity in Forbes and other ventures. I'm doing that for the conference. So you get involved. Now, most consultants and professionals know that, but they stop there. They're not using the 3 secret weapons. Number 3, get published. Publishing is a spectrum. It starts, and Carol can talk all day about this. I've got a real LinkedIn expert here with LinkedIn, where you're using LinkedIn as your blogging platform. And why not? It's tied to the world's biggest business-to-business database. So that can start today. If you're an expert, where is an article you've written in the last 30 days that proves you're an expert? LinkedIn is a great place to start. The spectrum goes all the way to getting books published that are bestsellers on Amazon, and all the way to a New York Times bestseller. I haven't gotten there yet. My Warren Buffett book, #1 in 4 categories on Amazon.com, in the top 100 business sellers for over 100 days, winner of business awards, international, now in Chinese. So I'm in 5 languages. Okay, great. I invested $20,000 to make that kind of bestseller. It would have been $100,000 to make it a New York Times bestseller. So I didn't see the cost benefit there. I used all the money I made from that book in promoting that book because it's more important what happens as the result of the book. So one of my authors who has published several books, and he said, I have to confide in you, Henry, that I make more money with my book that you independently published with Indie Books than I do with my New York published book. And I said, I know, me too. You can make much more money with an independently published book. And even then, it's all about publishing a book to be a net zero investment. The money you put in for help writing the book and publishing and promoting the book, you want to get enough sales to get that back. The real money in our study is what happens as a result of the book. Yes, Penny Reid sold books to pay for the publishing, but the real money came from training, speaking, consulting, mastermind groups, strategic retreats, teaching for prestigious groups in your category. So I've taught at University of California, San Diego, Columbia University. Again, yeah, that money came in. I was more interested in the prestige, frankly, because in my studies, it shows that you're going to get a 400 to 2,000% ROI. This means 4 to 20 times what you put in. So you might, all told in a book, you might spend $20,000 if you do what we say about speak twice a month, get publicity, do podcasts, send a book out a day. The people who do that get anywhere from 80 to 400,000 back over the course of a couple of years. You know, the Penny Reid, 200,000 a year. That is certainly doable. Okay, so that's the spectrum of, on that spectrum of publicity, how do you get to be a columnist? If people are interested in that, you know, you can see me. I've written how to do that. I have monographs on it. The best publicity is being a columnist because I don't have to convince Forbes to publish me 5 times a month. They're already waiting for the articles. In fact, you know, they pay me to do it. My son Jack, when he says, if you're paid to market, that's the perfect crime. So I want you to commit the perfect crime too. I want you to get paid to market to people. Now, number 2, in our studies, the second best thing you can do is to get invited by groups of your target-rich environment to give how-to speeches. It can be panels, workshops, keynotes. Sometimes you have to be the author with the professional credentials to get on a stage that you want to be on. And if you think charging less will get you on that stage, you're mistaken. They're betting a lot on putting you on their stage. So they want somebody worth $5,000 to $10,000. So that means you have some good video that they can see of you speaking to groups. You have a good 1-sheet PDF. You're good. You're good at what you do. You've honed and rehearsed and deliver an engaging presentation to people. Number 2 thing. Number 1, and this surprises a lot of people, it's counterintuitive. Number 1 is a small scale seminar. You're looking at 5 to 10 people. It can be virtual on Zoom. In the former times, I've done 100 of these around the country, and I'm not looking for big crowds. I'm looking for 5 to 10 people that I can interact with. Well, to tell you our strategy, we give it all away, is the person who's responsible for doing this for us, Devin DeVries. So Devin, why don't you tell them about the small scale seminar strategy?
Thank you. So the small scale seminar strategy, as Henry said, is based on basically they're informational events, usually no cost or very low cost events. And the idea is to give helpful information to your audience, which will be, you're showing your generosity, and that is attractive to clients. But the underlying kind of reason behind it is that it gives them a chance to experience you in kind of a low risk environment, have you prove that you are the expert you say you are. They get a sense of your style, and it's enough for them to know if they want to take a next step and kind of explore more with you. So I'll tell you a quick story to kind of illustrate how powerful this strategy can be. 7 years ago, we founded Indie Books International, and Henry knew as a new player in the industry, we needed to form some strategic partnerships so that we could better serve our clients and also grow our business. So he had done some research and found the #1 public relations company for promoting books and authors was a firm out of Tampa, Florida called News and Experts. And he was able to get a call with their CEO, Marcia, and they had a nice kind of getting to know you chat. And it ended, as those often do, with Marcia saying, well, this all sounds interesting. Next time you're in the area, why don't you come by the office and we'll talk more. So Henry hung up the phone, came out to me in my office and said, when's the next open date on our calendar? And I said, about 3 weeks from now, the beginning of September. And he said, great, we're going to Florida. Okay. He calls Marcia back up to say, oh, it just so happens I'm going to be in Orlando the first weekend of September. Maybe we could get together. So they made an appointment. And then Marcia asked, what's bringing you to Florida? Now, what Marcia didn't know at the time was that Henry made up a reason to be there. So he said, we're putting on our Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit. And she said, well, that sounds very interesting. I'd like to attend that. Great. So here we are. We have 3 weeks to fill a room so that we don't look like posers in front of this CEO we're trying to impress. But here's the challenge. We're a startup based in Southern California. We know nobody in Florida. Our constant contact database has 0 people in that area of the country. So what were we going to do? And that's when we turned to LinkedIn and we developed this marketing outreach strategy. So what I love about LinkedIn is that all that information we all write in our profiles is searchable. It's an amazing tool that a lot of people have not tapped into. So for us, we knew, our target audience is consultants. We were looking in a geographic location of basically anywhere within a 2-hour drive of Orlando, Florida. We also could look by organizations. So we know, people in Vistage or Institute of Management Consultants are good target rich audiences for us. So you have to kind of know your who, and the more detailed and specific you can be, the more powerful the strategy becomes. But think job title, industry, all of those things are searchable through LinkedIn. And what we did was just a pretty simple kind of 2-step process to invite these people. Now, Henry believes in setting goals with incentives. So he said, if you can get 12 people to sign up for this event in 3 weeks' time, I will buy you a ticket to Disney World while we're in Florida. He knows that I am a Disney nut. So to me, that was like challenge accepted. And for the next 3 weeks, I did this simple approach. So I'll give it to you really fast, but if you want details, we have a white paper with this all written out and example messages that we are happy to send you. But the basic process is when you send the connection invite on LinkedIn, you can add a little note. So we simply added, if there was some sort of connection, something in common. So, I see we're both members of the Institute of Management Consultants or something like that. And then just one sentence, which is, would you be open to an invitation to be our guest at an event we're hosting for consultants in Orlando? And that was it. That went with the connection invite. If they accepted, we followed it up with a 1-paragraph invitation to our event, a link to our website with more details. So it's a real kind of soft knock at the door approach. It's not pushy or spammy. We send one message. And then it's also a genuine offer of helpful information. So that's the other thing. What is the topic that's going to speak to your audience? What is the problem they have that you can solve for them? And, develop the seminar around that. So in the end, I was able to get 15 people to sign up in 3 weeks' time. Marcia came, we met with her, we started working with them, and it's a relationship that lasts to this day. Her team has done amazing things for our clients, getting them, article placements, local TV, national TV, radio, all of that. And she's also been a referral source for us. One of our largest contracts to date was a referral from Marcia. So it was a wonderful experience. But that's not even the best part of the story. We wrote business that covered the expense of that entire trip before we even left our offices in California as a direct result of those LinkedIn messages. So what will happen is people will get the message. We had one gentleman who said, I can't make that date, but I have been looking for a ghostwriter. Can we schedule a call? And he ended up hiring Henry to help him with his book. And then the second one, and this was an interesting side effect, they'll be curious, who is this person sending me a message? They're going to go and look at your profile. So all the wonderful work you've done to fill that out. And this person had seen that Henry is a Vistage speaker. And he said, I've been trying to get into the Vistage speaking world. Can you help me with that? And he bought 2 consulting sessions with Henry, which again, isn't even our main business, but it's a nice add-on. And like I said, that was all before we even had the event. We know every event we do will lead to clients. It may not necessarily be the person in the room. They may become a referral source for us. They may pass along the information. But we know it's going to turn into something good. Spending the time to share and connect with our audience is going to lead back to growing our business. And like Henry said, we have taken the strategy across the country. We did them in person for years and years and years. And then luckily in January of 2020, we thought we should try this virtually. So we actually had a tiny lead start, because by April 2020, everything was 100% virtual. So now we have over a year of doing completely online, and the strategy holds true. It continues to work. It actually has expanded our audience because now we are not tied to any specific location. So we've been able to connect with consultants all over the country. And you can too. So that is what we kind of want to show, is that this works for all audiences, all topics. It might take a little trial and error to find what exactly does your audience, what's going to grab their attention, because that is the biggest challenge we have, is just people are so inundated with messages. But once you find it, you find the, what is that problem that you solve that they really want, then it becomes a formula that you can repeat and continue to reach your audience every month. And with that, I will hand it back over to Henry.
Thank you, Devin. Good job. I love that I'm the nemesis villain character in your story, the boss who promises something big and then has the employee deliver. So thanks for that story. Let's tie some things to it, some strategies that we have found to be game changers in our research. Number one is when you have one of these small scale events or other events, offer the participants a no-cost strategy call, a no selling zone strategy call. I'm offering it to all of you. I'm offering it to the people who listen to this recording, that we can spend 45 minutes together. I'll help you get clear on the goal for a book, the assets, usually hidden assets you have to get a book done. We can get clear on what are the roadblocks and how you get around those roadblocks, and then clarity around how others have gotten from where you are to where you want to go. I also suggest that as an enrollment philosophy. I'm writing a book about client enrollment now called Bring in the Business, and we cover that as part of the enrollment philosophy. So that's a legitimate offer to you. And people are surprised that we don't sell during those calls because we don't have to. You're smart enough to figure out if it's in your best interest for us to have a further conversation about working together or not. And your prospects are smart enough too. So encourage you to be generous and do those calls. The next thing is regularly send out copies of your book to people who can book you as a speaker or people who can hire you. The book is the #1 marketing tool. And if you have a lot of clients telling you now, oh, I'm surprised you don't have a book, or you should write a book, that's also coming with a little judgment. I have to warn you. In our study, that showed they're thinking like, is something wrong with this person that they don't have a book? So just know that that's out there too. The other strategy we advocate is you should showcase your information at least twice a month. A small scale seminar on Zoom is showcasing. I do at least 2 podcasts a month where I am somebody's guest on their podcast, and I share the information that way, and then I promote the podcast that we were on. So these are all ways that have been game changers for us, so we suggest those to you. I'll never forget the day I got a call from Bill Wooditch. I wish you could have been there. Now, I didn't know that Bill Wooditch was a big deal when he called me. And he sensed that. And he said, Henry, you don't know who I am, but I know the 4 magic words in the English language. I said, Bill, what's that? What are the 4 magic words? And he said, I know a guy. I've been calling around and people have said, oh, you want to be a best-selling author and you want to be a professional speaker? I know a guy, Henry DeVries. I said, wow, Bill, that's a lot of pressure. What is this thing that you want? And he told me, and I said, well, you want to climb a mountain. He convinced me to go up to Orange County, California and spend an afternoon with him. He convinced me by sending me $1,000. So I went up to talk to him for that time and found out that Bill was at a crossroads. He was 58 years old, very successful. He runs a very large insurance company. They insure large scale construction projects, the ones with all the cranes out there. It's likely that he's insuring it. He says, I've been very successful. I have 100 people working for me. And let me tell you, those people loved working for him. They said he was the best boss they'd ever had. He was inspirational. He taught them how to go from nothing to 6 figures in salary by being problem solvers. And they said, and if we started and we didn't have the right clothes to wear, Bill bought us the right clothes. Bill said, Henry, I got to confide with you. I never met her. I said, well, you never met her? I never met the right woman. I looked for decades for her. I never found her. So I poured all my energy into this business, and it's great motivating 100 people, but I didn't get what I really wanted in life. I wanted to motivate 10,000 people at a time. I said, oh my gosh, Bill, you don't want to climb a mountain. You want to climb Mount Everest. But there was just something about his conviction that made me say, okay, if you want to climb Mount Everest, I'm your Sherpa, let's go. Let me tell you, it was not easy. Bill was a blogger. He had written 90,000 words for blogs, and about broke his heart when I said, Bill, not these words, or at least not 2/3 of the words. Save those for a future book. I got him on stage at Qualcomm, which is a Fortune 500 company. It was 100 C-level executives. One came up to me afterwards and said, wow, that Bill is passionate. Wow, Bill is dynamic. Wow, I have no idea what Bill Wooditch is talking about. So we had to refine the message and put it into story form. The book was always forward. Devin talked about Marcia. Marcia helped get publicity for Bill on radio, on print, local TV as he traveled, and then the big break, the Steve Harvey show. Not 5 minutes or on a panel, 45 minutes devoted to Bill talking about his book, Always Forward, How to Get Past Fear in Life. Steve Harvey liked him so much, he had him back as a regular guest. No, Bill Wooditch did not talk to 10,000 people that day. He talked to 2 million people that day. He parlayed it into a serious radio show, a McGraw-Hill best-selling book. He used some of those other words I told him to save. And he was speaking for $10,000 a speech to 500, 1,000 people involved in some kind of sales, making it rain. So Bill had done it. It took 2 years. I called him up one day and I said, Bill, I want to take you to dinner. And I took him out to a nice restaurant. No, I didn't take him to McDonald's or Denny's. I took him to a nice steak restaurant. I'm Dutch, I'm frugal, but I picked up the check. The first time we went to dinner, he picked up the check, but this time I picked it up. And I just wanted to say, Bill, I said you had a mountain to climb, and you proved to me you were willing to climb the mountain. And Bill got choked up. And he said, those are the words I wanted to hear most of all. So I have an epilogue to the story. I asked Bill's permission if I could tell it. 3 things he said I have to add for you. One was, I had to make sure you know the first time I said, let's go out to dinner, he picked up the check. 2, he said to tell them I'm now speaking for $15,000. So he's in the $10,000 to $20,000 range on his speeches. And 3rd, tell him I found her. He found the right woman. And I think we're going to hear some wedding bells soon. Okay. That shows you how this is possible. It's possible in 2 years. Success leaves fingerprints, as the saying goes. There's a lot of examples we have of success. What I recommend to you is to start small, and to start in a small way is ask me for, or ask Devin for a no-cost strategy call, no selling zone. And we'll help you get clear on your goals, your hidden assets, your roadblocks, and the path others have chosen who were in your place and now they've gotten to where you want to go. So with that, I want to thank everybody for their attention today, and I hope I talk to you one-on-one very soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.